You are watching CIOTV by Enterprise IT World, a production of Accent Infomedia.
So always in the IT for your survival, which I used to advocate across the three mantras to sustain in the business. COVID has made it more and more true. If you don't follow this after COVID, it's very difficult to sustain your business. Those three mantras become my second dimension, which is called agility, scalability, and resilience.
So, Mr. Damodaran Raman, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer, BayanPay Saudi, welcome on board to CIOTV.live.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thanks for having me in the CIOTV. I really appreciate the initiative.
All right, Mr. Damodaran, I would appreciate if you give a small and quick introduction about yourself. You have been into various organizations, starting from ISRO to IBM. Now you are in a leadership position in BayanPay, which is a startup fintech company out of Saudi Arabia.
Basically, I've started my career as a rocket scientist, which you can see behind me. That is the exact rocket which we were started working on, the 1-ton design. So it's very close to my heart, the GSLV. So that's where the projects which we worked on. So I was in ISRO for 14 years. And then I moved to IBM and another 14 years of a stint. Okay, so the 14 is becoming a very lucky number for me. And in IBM, basically, I worked across the world, you name it, North America, South America, Africa, Middle East, Europe, except for Australia and New Zealand. I played a various role in the various capacity across the world. So last year, I joined a very small startup fintech company in Saudi Arabia in March 2019 as the capacity of Chief Technology and Innovation Officer. Really, if you see, Sanjay, I think the paradigm shift from coming from the well-established, almost the number one companies across the world, and then you coming back to the startup was really a great experience for me. Initially, a little bit of shock in terms of what all you need to do that. Perhaps I think that the learning was immense.
As you know, global payment market size is expected to reach $2 trillion USD in 2025 with a CAGR growth of 7.83. And out of that, digital payment is becoming very, very heavy. Looking at this present context, COVID-19 situation, and I'll say by 2030, it is probably grow by 70% as per market statistics. So you are in a very hot seat, which is growing and which is buzzing with a different kind of activities. So into a special payment industry, digital payment industry, what is the current situation? Sitting in that hot chair, managing, monitoring, and making technology available to your users and to the customers also has been very difficult. How have you dealt with the situation?
So when we talk about the COVID and the digital payments, it has become a very cohesive topic. Digital was basically a buzzword a couple of years back, and it is a transformational project. It is an add-on project for the enterprise to basically try it and work it out. And I was there in this space for quite some time. The success rate was 40 to 50%. It is not because digital is not working, because it has taken as another initiative and not great the focus. So in a way, the future is all digital. Now the COVID has brought digital is almost near to mandatory, because unfortunately I cannot go to the shop and buy. I cannot go and eat peacefully, right? And then I don't want to really. I am aloof to myself from the community. So who is there next to me? It's only the digital. Okay, so that's when the world is moving towards. And then people are very, very cautious about, moving around and getting the things. So then digital almost coming close to their mandatory. Having said that, I know that this transformation will impact various departments of different fraternity, particularly when you are in technology fraternity. I think you, as you rightly said, you are in the hot seat, right? So particularly in the COVID time, the IT system up and running is crucial because everybody, they try to get into the online space. They want to buy online. The e-commerce is booming. The, the money transfer which is happening is only through the digital right now because during that point, hardly people they go. Even people are scared to touch the currency because this cruel virus can spread through even the currency. The situation is very, very bad at this point in time. So everybody has to take care of their own, well-being. Hence, the digital is becoming. So, having said that, uh, taking this role in the a small startup and the fintech, okay, I tell both two different because the combination is terrific. The startup has got its own challenges in terms of your funding, your expectations, non-availability of resources, but the expectation is you have to really deliver the best because you are nowhere in the market. You have to make yourself, right? And then the another aspect is a fintech, so that the fintech, when you touch about the payments and the financial industry, it is bringing its own, challenges in terms of, because it's somebody's money, you handle it, right? It requires an utmost care. So basically the challenges for fintech startup is paramount. That's what I could see. Particularly when you ask me specific to the question, directly I go back to the few challenges which I faced during the COVID, and then how I overcome. I will take a little short to do that. So particularly, I think there are many challenges. According to me, for my company, I think there are 4 or 5. For example, I would like to just start with an asset. The moment the lockdown which is coming in, and we are a small team members, and then the rest of the team members in the rest of the world, and basically in Saudi Arabia there are few verticals like compliance and the risk, which they perform their duty only from the office. It's for the various reasons, right? Because when you are opening, it's a confidentiality, right? So that is the culture, and that is the regulation also, because you don't want to show what action you are taking on some of the compliance issue with your households, right? You never know, you do have a control. So that was a real challenge in terms of how to move those functions to work from home. So what we did was, is it so easy for any fintech to just go and buy 50 laptops and do that? Yes, we need to really look into the your financials. Every dollar matters for a startup, right? So what I did was, basically, I think for some of the people with this mandatory, we procured laptop, and the rest of the people, including human resources, HR office, finance. So what we had, by luck, we have an all-in-one Dell desktops. It's a little bit thin than having a separate CPU, and we thought always. I believe that, okay, one has to be very innovative and disruptive. This is my 2 things which I used to tell them. So we thought that disruptively, okay, why we need to buy all those things? Why don't we ship this to their house? Initially, it's a culture, right? So you are shifting the office laptop to my home and all those things. So culturally, I think we could able to convince them, and we moved them, right? So I moved the entire desktop into the respective house of the people. Yeah, so that's the one thing, convincing them and making it happen. The second thing, it comes as in connectivity. It's a VPN. Basically, during that point in time, the VPN connectivity for the number of users have gone up. Yes, as you know, that the network and the privilege and all those things, it took some time, but it's all right. The third, I talked about the culture, because people also will think about working from home. When I come to office, I come at 9 o'clock and go by 6, and then rest is done. But when you are working from home, the norm is changing, right? And when you are in the crucial period, for example, if it is the compliance, if somebody has to do the checker job for the beneficiary which you have added, and it's a 24/7. So we cannot afford to have a 3-shift manpower for the volume what we are handling. So perhaps you need to talk to your team in better way, saying that, so this is the time for us to get into the next stage of the business. Please help us. Initially, we had some of the, little bit of glitches, but later people, they understood. So what I feel is, it's very important to bring the culture of your team to adopt to the change. For sure, I will tell you, the mankind is so great, it will adapt to the situation when the need arises, right? And the security, basically, I think that's a very, very important thing, particularly as a fintech, and strict regulations as a PSP from regulation authority. All our monitors, I think we used 2-3 tools like Microsoft Intune, Carbon Black for the developer's machine, and we enhanced the security scan of our applications in the data center, and so on and so forth, right? And finally, the biggest pressure is the business pressure, right? So we, as I was mentioning, we have digital wallet as well as the payment gateway, right? So the payment gateway, the e-commerce, the surges happen drastically, okay? I could see that at times our transaction volume has crossed 300 to 400%. So then that's the one point of handling such a volume which you have not used to, number one. Number two, the bigger merchants, because they are also into the getting into the acquisition of more business and things like that, their demands are becoming, no, I need the report in this format. I don't want to do the auto settlement. You need to send me the settlement report on the daily basis, okay? At times, during this point in time, it's a lot of pressure, but do we have a choice? No, because to make the business, I think we could able to, convince and satisfy our, valuable merchants or the customers, and we were successful so far. This is where I've gone through, Sanjay, as a tough time, so-called tough times, I think we have crossed through.
So you have been into B2B and B2C, both the things, both the places you are placed in. What is the kind of IT or infrastructure that you adapted to adapt to the growing demands from the market? Is it a mix, kind of hybrid IT, or it was cloud, or what is the kind of IT that you adapted?
Perfect. It's a great question. See, I'm lucky enough here because when I started this, IT, we have started 100% digital, right? So any new player getting into the market, I think they are much more leveraged than the, erstwhile organization, because you have a choice to select, right? So we are 100% digital, point number one. Point number two, and we are also into 100% cloud from the day one, right? So, and so to say, we are outside, so we are on public cloud. In Saudi Arabia, how the cloud works, we don't have, AWS, Azure yet for various regulatory. And we do have the private cloud players. And then in the public cloud, they created something called a community cloud, which they will give you the secured area for you, right? So as we speak, technically, I'm in a public cloud of a cloud provider with my own secured zone, yeah, and it works perfect, and regulatory has approved. So if you ask me, my company perspective, we are 100% of in the cloud, and so hybrid will be the mandate for any other erstwhile. Unfortunately, in my company, I don't need that to go for an hybrid because I don't have anything on the on-premise, right? So you are answering to your second question, how did you manage to, the scale, basically, when the things getting into? So particularly, it's all about your architecture, how you make the, your infrastructure is all about. So initially what we thought through, being a fintech, right? Yes, you need to have a DR, and then having a multiple environment like, pre-prod, UAT, testing, couple of environments, development, it's all cost at the end of the day. So we have gone through and we have optimized the number of environments which we require, right? So that way we will have a development environment, testing environment, and one UAT environment. So pre-prod, I think we have taken a chance, right? Basically. So how to fill that gap? So that's when we really look into the two node aspects. So we have two nodes, which my entire applications will run as an active, passive. Sometimes when I require, I'll make it as an active. So what I do, basically, instead of pre-prod test, I will route all my business to the node 1, and the node 2, I deploy the new one, and then I do the live testing. Even though it's a production, I use it for the testing. That's when we want to optimize. So the moment when that is ready, then we will route all the production queue to the new node 2, and then we update the node 1 so that it gets synced. So answering to your question, how we made it, it is basically from the two nodes, we made it as an active so that it also works as a load balancer. And since you are in the cloud, and we also have the rules set in, if it goes more than the threshold, it creates its own instance and do that. So thanks to cloud, I think it has made our life easy in terms of growing. I don't see any reason why we need to worry about the, the load per se. We are not yet into the containerization, which I will go through soon, because right now my volumes are not that alarming, which I need to too much worry about that. I think the current cloud is helping us. That's when we handle the heavy volume.
Yeah, if I look at your industry being in fintech, it has got its own set of rules, compliances also. Working from home is not that granted. But there was a situation when we were forced, the management must be forced to push people to work from home. At that time, security is the biggest concern for the fintech industry. And you must have heard so many attacks, so many ransomware, stealing data, doing different kinds of nuisance. Oh, how did you manage? What was your strategy to ensure that the endpoint is protected and no bad traffic is coming inside?
Absolutely, Sanjay. It's a very fantastic question, and it's very, very important. This question is for your survival, right? So the moment when we thought about work from home, and what all you have asked, and much more questions have come to our mind, right? And unfortunately, you have a very, very short time to take that, right? Because you are into the secured zone and you are perfect. You did all your doors were well closed and proper locks. Today, you are supposed to open the lock and then the house is open, but still you need to be secured. So that is the biggest challenge. Okay. So as I was mentioning, I think working from home has become mandate because it's a 100% lockdown. And as I mentioned in the earlier questions, we made sure that assets have been given to everybody, right? So the VPN is a crucial, connectivity and then security, one level of securing that. So once the VPN connectivity is done, and you all know that, right? The different roles will have the different privileges. All those things have been taken care. The main thing is we also deal through the emails, right? Communication between the people are going through the email. Okay, so we need to make sure that the email management is really your server is secured. Okay, so as I was mentioning, we have Microsoft Intune basically, and the IT admin has to really monitor almost continuously to look for any phishing or any suspicious emails and things like that. And we also send that security awareness. To be honest, I will tell you, Sanjay, the COVID has brought us to give the security awareness to all the employees, which now, if you ask me, any the lowest level of my 2 years of experience developer can talk about the security very much. He understood what it is. I think what we did was basically the awareness, and it's not our stuff, right? If it has happened to somewhere else, we used to pass them to the people to be aware of that. And so the awareness was seamlessly, which is going across, right? And then we are monitoring all our email traffic and all our communications through the Intune. But when it comes to the developers, basically, because developers have to, check out their code from your development environment to the test environment to the UAT environment. These are all your assets, okay? That's when somebody is hacking. That's the biggest loss than an email coming and attacking, right? So what we did was, okay, we have to do the work, and it is a little bit of the constraint we, so be it. Okay, the security is the priority. So we have deployed the carbon block into all the developers' machine. So what it means to us is we can monitor and each and everything what is happening into this machine. Point number one. Yeah, it's a tool, it's a cost, but you have to bear it with it. Point number two, we didn't allow anybody to communicate with that particular laptop which we have given. For example, if you are a developer, the setting is such a way that you cannot even promote the code until I grant you, right? So that means it was ring-fenced as security. The once everybody is done and you review and everything, and when we are clear, then we give the permission to promote, right? So these two things in terms of email traffic and also how you secure your asset. And then when data center is concerned, we have run the security scan on our applications more than what we used to do in general. And I also insisted my periodical VAPT, right, vulnerability assessment and penetration test, which I preponed, because when we are in the lockdown, we never know what's happening, right? So these are all the few proactive steps which I have taken, and we are lucky. That's what I could say. I cannot say that I've done the great job. We were lucky that no threats have encountered during that point in time, and then we were safe.
Fintech is now these days exploiting the opportunity of automation. Bot services are getting integrated into the mainstream. Artificial intelligence is playing a big role now. I can see banks are playing to their advantage. So also the payment banks and the digital payment organizations. So to what extent are you also exploiting the opportunity of automation and AI?
So I was talking about the two things which I will imbibe into my culture and to my team. That's an innovation and then disruption. Okay, and these two are looks, implicit to each other basically. So what I mean is, because you have to be innovative and you have to be disruptive also, right? So if you want to be disruptive and innovative, I think your automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, it's becoming a part and parcel, right? So you cannot achieve a disruption within the stipulated time without the aid of all those things. Particularly my company is concerned, basically, I think, we are a startup. I think we are building our, the business and the products and everything, right? So currently what we are, so far we didn't have, to be honest, okay? Currently we are looking for customer care. Can we really go for a bot related? So I was just having a discussion. I think pretty much I have finalized on my use cases. Hopefully, I think we will go soon live for at least for the customer care perspective, to avoid the human error. Because, in financial industry, even your call center agent, if he's not able to pull the data in right time, it's not good. And by mistake, if he is giving a different data, we don't want to have any human error, so that these bot will really get into a simple use cases like, what is my balance yesterday, I did the remittance, where is the status, and all those things. So currently we are working, pretty much we are in the final stage of closing the deal, and then which will come in. When you come to the AI and ML, it's very close to my heart, okay? Because in my previous organization, okay, so this is where we used to do that. I want to do a lot here, but as you know that artificial intelligence, it doesn't come from the sky, right? So there is some intelligence God has come and giving you. No, it is a process and it is a tool, and it's purely depend on the data, the amount of data you have, the quality of the data you have, the rules which you make it, right? So these are all very, very important parameters to say you have a successful AI. I can also say that I have an AI with some data, with, little bit curated data, and then maybe 10 use cases may not be really helpful. So to be honest, that is our roadmap. When my technology roadmap, AI ML is very, very predominant. But am I ready at this point in terms of the data volume? Not really. I think last 1 year, I think we did a good amount of data collection. And then I also have to data cleansing, right? Because when you feed the right data into the AI, then, so I'm collecting the data right now. Soon we will get into very big way in artificial intelligence and machine learning. But as of now, yes, we are in the learning process.
Okay, Mr. Damodaran, you seem to have very ambitious plans for your organizations, giving complete new shape to the organization from a technology point of view. But how are you expecting? I'm seeing that global CIOs are saying that next 2 to 3 quarters are going to be very difficult, because convincing the CFOs and CEOs is actually very difficult from the budget point of view. The whatever budget they had allocated for this quarter is getting contracted. They are saying that, okay, do more with the less. Are you also facing the similar kind of challenge? Are you facing a similar kind of pinch also from the budget point of view?
Sanjay, I was in the overall industry for 28 years, right? So never getting a budget is easy, and never getting a budget is difficult also. It's all about you, okay? Right from ISRO time onwards, when you go on the use cases, it's all what is your use case, right? Pretty much I could tell very clearly, I can even give examples. I think more than 90% of my proposals have been accepted, right? So the reason here is, for if you're in a business, every dollar counts, okay? The ultimate, it's not the technology, it's not your business process, it's not all those things. These are all the aid. At the end of the day, what dollar you make for your business and what benefit you give it to your shareholders or for the end customers. So that once if you understand that, the CIO, CTO, COO, that mindset will go, right? So it is business at the end of the day. So when you propose this type, always the money spending, one has to think, right? Because so penny served is penny earned. It's very, very clear, right? If you don't spend and it is an asset for you, right? The moment when you spend it, it's gone. So everybody will be very cautious. I agree with you. In my case is concerned particularly, we also have a very enthusiastic, and if you are telling me ambitious, you can multiply by 100 times. That's what my chairman is more ambitious. Okay. So he want everything yesterday. So he is so visionary. And then in that case, I'm very, very lucky. And for example, in February, when we know that the COVID is coming in, I think pretty much we have strategized our roadmap into the disruptive way, right? So am I into the payment domain? Do I need to stuck with that alone? Can I think something radical? Can I do something disruptive? This is what our discussion has gone in. And we went out of the boundary. Okay, just for the confidential purpose, I may not even take out the projects which we are in. The last 3 months of the COVID, I think we have really did a lot of disruptive work, keeping payment as a core. Maybe 2 to 3 months, so we will be into the market, which will be totally different than one can really envisage for a payment company. So that's what we want to do that. So having said that, so when your leadership is also aligned to your thought and they encourage, to be honest, we spend a lot in IT budget than ever last 1 year we spent on. Believe me, we developed 4 products in last 3 months. Yeah. So that way, if your intent is right and it is aligned to the what is your strategy, I don't see any big reason why people will not spend. And then it should be a careful spending, right? It's not just like that. Okay, you just see AI. I could have, even my chairman was telling, you take an AI engine, you start last year only, right? Because I don't want to go now, because if I buy an AI service, but I will be paying, subscription charge to a company, but for doing nothing on return on investment to me. So it's a very conscious, important decision from the technology leader to adopt when to spend what. So that's what it is. So I never had a problem in terms of the budget. In fact, we spend more on the budget, right? And also, when you talked about the budgeting, so it's not only about you asking the budget. Okay, you are also a core member of your steerco, right? You have all the responsibility to reduce the money, even though you are a technical. It is also your responsibility to reduce the overall spend of your company. So what is a contribution from you? If you ask me as a technical leader, I think you have a lot of leeway to do that. For example, right from my career in ISRO, I'm against, foreign import, right? I did a lot of indigenization in ISRO. We can discuss in some other call. It's very, very interesting learning. In IBM, I have replaced multiple big products from the big names. I don't want to name it, because it is not the product is bad. The product is fantastic and you pay so much money. Are you using the entire capability of the product? My answer, I'll tell you, 70% of the enterprises, they use not even 50% of the capability of the products. Why should I pay? You pay a license fee and you have the maintenance fee. Rather, you find another solution. I did it 3 to 4, very successful. My clients were very, very happy. So as a technical fraternity, what is your contribution to reducing the cost is very, very important, right? So what I did, so we also have the payment gateway, which we have hosted erstwhile when we started this. Now I have to bring it back to Saudi Arabia. So my entire product is, built on Oracle database, right? As you know that when we move from one data center to another data center, particularly it's a different geography, based on your contractual stuff. So in my case, I have to really re-buy the license. Your license is costing close to 1 million riyal. I was just thinking that I'm a startup. I'm into the COVID. Yeah, I have to do this. But is it a good idea to put pressure on the management to spend 1 million riyal? I just thought through, right? So then you go back to their drawing board. That's what every technical guys have to go to the drawing board and go to the basics. It's all about the basics, okay? So you went across, then what is the alternative? What is the cost factor to me? So one is the migration, I can do that. But second is this product cost. Do I have an option? So that's when I brainstormed, and then I have seen that MySQL database is open source. It's free. But is it that easy to transform from Oracle to MySQL? It's not, right? If that is easy, entire world would have made that, right? So I thought that, do I have a choice? Do I have a position to spend 1 million riyal for this licensing? I myself felt, my chairman would have approved, but I myself felt that it's not the right one. So myself and a developer, we started this transformation project, Sanjay, on February in the blueprint. Today, we are in July 1st. It is in UAT, ready for use. So I have to do the PCI DSS certificate. It's done. It's only a couple of guys putting the effort. Yes, you have to do a lot more. The product was very highly cohesive with the Oracle database in terms of the scripts and things like that. But it's an IT. Everything is possible. Everything is possible. It's all matter about how you think. So then I could save at least $1 million real, and then subsequent, support cost as an Oracle product is concerned. So that is my contribution to my company in terms of the cost. So every person in a company should think that way, then your company will move forward. So this is when the cost effectiveness part, which we have done, Sanjay.
So this leads to my last question. What is the kind of advice that you have for the budding CIOs or your peer groups, so those who are struggling at times also for many reasons, not only for technology, for finance also, for budgeting also. What do you have in mind?
Basically, there are companies, the big companies, which they have, separate entities, separate verticals, and they can afford to have those verticals to really look into all these strategies and then rework on, you will have in the big companies, strategy itself is a number of people. So my advice to the particularly startups and medium-sized companies, which they will get impacted much more than anybody, because your finance, your everything is very constrained, right? So when we talk about, well, I have done the work from home, I did the security and all those things, sometimes it will also create a confusion saying that, okay, I'm getting a lot of information. I don't know what to do, where to do, what is the systematic way to, adopt this. That's when I thought that, okay, just to remember easily and take the step logically. So I created the model called the ROCKS model, which is there in my background, right? So it's not a framework, it's not a great model, it's simple, just to remember and logically take the steps based on that, right? So the ROCKS consisting of the 4 parameters. So my definition to the ROCK is R is an reinvent. You have to reinvent at this point in time. Second, O is little bit contradictory. When we talk about this strategy, I'm telling be objective strategy. Okay, it's totally contradicting. I'll come back when I explain to that. The third one is, it is the survival of the business, right? Cost. If you don't maintain your cost, and if you are not able to pay or not able to grow, then your business is, that's all. So the cost effectiveness is the third dimension. Fourth, all looks very nice if your security is secured, right? If that goes, the one thing will take away all those things. So there are multiple other parameters. It's not only limited to these 4, but these 4, I feel that the pillars for anybody to look into, making your strategy. So this is a one dimension, I call it, okay? So being a scientist, I will talk about too much of dimensions and all, so it will be a little bit confusing, but it makes sense, okay? So this is the one dimension I look into, the 4 parameters: reinvent, objective, cost effectiveness, and security. The second dimension to this, yes, I will do all these things. How will you do that? Reinvent. Then people should not go to the google.com and say that what is the definition of the reinvent? I want to do something, right? I'm not meaning that. So your reinvention should have a basic characteristics or the need associated with that. That's what I call it as 3 mantras. Okay. So always in the IT, for your survival, which I used to advocate across, the 3 mantras to sustain in the business. COVID has made it more and more true. If you don't follow this after COVID, it's very difficult to sustain your business. Those 3 mantras become my second dimension, which is called agility, scalability, and resilience. Okay. When you look at about reinvent, you need to say that my reinvention will enable agility in my business. That is your checklist. Yeah. So my reinvention method of the business is susceptible for scalability in the positive direction. And my reinvention gives resilience. For example, you can do a fantastic reinvention which will give you an 8 hours window for the customers. May not be a great one at this point in time, right? So you need to map one parameter to these 3 dimensions in terms of the objectives, cost effectiveness, and security. Yeah. So this is the second dimension of the strategy. So being a scientist, I will also go to the third dimension. So the third dimension is very, very important, where I will apply all these things. So you need to see that when you talk about the reinvent and agility, in where there are 3 more dimensions, 3 more parameters. That is basically your software, your infrastructure, and your human resource, right? Very, very important. So my thing is, you have to really put an x-axis of ROCS, and then it has got another dimension called agility, scalability, and resilience. And then each has got a 3. If you put a mind map of R will have a 3, and 3 will have 3. Okay, that is how I can applicable to software, infra, and the human resource. If you really map this into a checklist and look at your use case of the strategy and put this framework, and you see that which one is scores accord. For example, if you have 4 use cases, you are confused that which one I need to go, because digitalization is very big, right? And you cannot do everything at a time, and you should do very smartly the low hanging fruit, which will give you the results immediately. So how will you know that which is low hanging fruit and which is right thing which I am going across? I think this rocks model will really help you. So my submission is basically, I think you have to really innovative. Innovation doesn't mean that you have to be a eureka moment. You just, my definition of the innovation is you do the same thing what you have done today, tomorrow in the different way, which helps you and helps your customer in terms of business. If you are at home, you go and do the same thing differently, which you are happy and the subsequent party is happy. That is called innovation for me, right? I'm not complicating the innovation to the rocket science. Number 2, disruption. You should start thinking about the disruption. Many times we are confined with, oh my God, I'm in a payment industry. Can I do something else? No. How can you do that? No, we have to come out of that. You have to be disruptive. You should be radical, right? These 2 has to be in the DNA. So this is how it will come into the, you start chanting these mantras like, agility, scalability, resilience. As Cristiano Ronaldo says, right? Things are unstoppable. So that's my advice to my fellow fraternities, and I'm very happy to help them.
Thank you very much, and nice speaking to you. You spared so much of your valuable time.
My pleasure, Sanjay. Thank you so much.